Hola, Steven.
Hello, how are you?
I am amazing. How are you?
Oh, doing real well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool, man. I'm so glad that we get to do this interview and this conversation, talk about your pillar of meditation, have people get to see you and learn more about you. But before we do that, before we dive into the Heart Center, let's do a quick heart opener. I know you have something special for us, so we will take a few moments and we'll begin once you are all set.
All right.
Thank you, Stephen.
My pleasure.
Always a blessing to hear you play the flute. So this is the Heart Center once again, and we are continuing our series of the 9 interviews with the pillars and the guides of the new. And today we have Stephen, the pillar of meditation, and I'm Chris, the founder of the Heart Center, and we're just gonna talk and see what comes up. Stephen, we'll start with you. Who are you? Where did you come from? Meditation, yoga, purple. There's a lot going on with you, so let's give the
Thanks
world
for
a
having me.
little taste.
Yeah, sure. All right. So I think my seed of all of what I'm doing now with meditation, mindfulness, spirituality was really planted by my mother at a very early age. She started her spiritual journey when she was pregnant with me,
Mm.
and shortly after I was born, she did her yoga teacher training. And I just remember as a kid, her really introducing the breath, the Ujjayi pranayama, especially I remember that
Yeah.
ocean-sounding breath. And her teaching didn't really carry forth, but the seed was planted. Like the awareness of the breath. And I just remember she would do these kind of like guided meditations with me at night to help me relax. I was a little bit of a high-strung kid.
Yeah.
So between like the breath and these guided meditations, I think at a very early age, I kind of learned how to drop in, and I kind of learned what it was like to be in a quieter state,
Wow.
and use this as an avenue really to dive into a deeper place.
Yeah.
So I think that planted the seed for curiosity in the realm of spirituality and metaphysics.
Mm.
And I was always really kind of drawn to philosophy and esoteric ideas growing up. But I never really had a practice of yoga. I wasn't practicing yoga. I was doing a lot of sports, very heavily into sports, like multiple sports per season when I was in middle school. I mean, so lots of sports, very active, very involved in my body. So when I was working, so I went for school for engineering, and then wound up doing engineering full time, doing computer programming work at a small engineering company in Connecticut. And my life was kind of not that, it was kind of in a lower point, and I started to consciously turn things around and really got back into physicality, really got back into riding my bike, and really was in like this intention to really start to clear out and to elevate myself up. And the idea of yoga was just kind of like starting to percolate in my mind.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I started dating this woman that who was a yogini, who had been practicing yoga since she was like 18. She really kind of helped give me that final push into the practice of yoga, to kind of introduce me to it, started going to classes with her, and then I was hooked and was really got sucked into it. Was going almost every day. And then while we were still dating, she went to do her yoga teacher training at Kripalu. And I remember just talking to her at night, hearing about her experience and what she was doing. I was like, wow, that sounds amazing. And like having an engineering mindset and the kind of liking to know the whys behind the what's in the hows.
Yeah.
I really wanted to, after she did her experience, I really was like, oh, that's something I'd really love to do. But at the time, I had a lot of social anxiety, and the idea of being a teacher, being in front of people, was kind of terrifying to say the least.
Yeah.
So I decided a year later, things didn't work out with her, but so much gratitude for her for playing that role in my life.
Yeah, she was a huge catalyst for you, it sounds like.
Yes, and it's kind of funny to see like the theme of my life, how women have just been huge catalysts in my life. So that feminine energy of movement, of transformation, really can be powerful and potent.
And it's funny you say, your mother was kind of like the ocean waves energy. And I know we were talking a few minutes ago, like there's a storm right now, and you said it sounds like ocean waves.
Right.
And here we are, doing this beautiful interview, and I can kind of feel that vibration of the storm in a sense that's going on outside, but it's very much here and helping us. It's present. How you said you consciously started to turn your life around. Can you go deeper into how, like, when you say you consciously did that, how's that different than something else that someone might say, oh, my life turned around? So when you say you consciously did it, what is that?
Well, for me, I was working 40 hours a week at an engineering job, programming, doing no physical activity, smoking cigarettes, and I finally, I was getting like bronchitis, and I had to get like an inhaler, and I think that was like really the turning point for me. I was like, I used to be so active, so physical, and now I'm just feeling kind of gross in my own body, and just like using this inhaler. So I was like, I'm ready for a shift. So I remember just like going on my bike and just like cranking, and just like that really was like kind of the energetic shift to kind of clear things out, and then it was really setting the stage to start to dive inward.
So you made a choice. You chose to do that, though. It was something that you recognized within yourself and said, this needs to change. I'm going to make a change within myself to experience something different and be different. So that was the conscious choosing, right?
Right, and I think it was my first real experience of the potency of that fed up energy.
Wow,
kind of
good one, yeah.
Kind of like that bucket energy,
yeah.
Right? It's like, I could keep doing this.
But, it's not even worth it.
It's not inherently bad, but I know I could feel better.
Right.
I want to feel better in my body, in like my being. And then one of the other big draws to this whole yoga mindfulness was just my big push, I think, was really just to feel more comfortable in my own skin.
Yeah.
Like dealing with history of like depression and anxiety and just not particularly liking myself all that much. It was really through Kripalu Yoga and their focus on mindfulness of like both the physicality and the spirituality, the balance between the energy of the body and the chitta, the consciousness, while at the same time strengthening our relationship with our witness consciousness, that place of higher observation, which is inherently compassionate and not judgmental.
Right.
It's really like Kripalu can be translated to compassion or compassionate. And like when they were in an ashram, they would even call themselves the yoga of love. So it was really awesome. Like my 200-hour teacher training was a huge pivotal point for me to really start to fall in love with myself. Was through these practices inherently pointing to self-awareness, which is like a kind of a capstone of meditation, doing that container for myself in a whole new light, in one of compassion, of non-judgment, softness. But
no matter
also
what was going on in your life, you were able to have that mindset of compassion and, again, not be too rigid with yourself, but say and observe it from that higher awareness. So that's a huge skill to acquire over time, and and it sounded like you had some grit. You wanted to really actually, say, screw this, I'm done. I want to do it differently. And through that, you had the ability to observe what was going on in your life and take the next step.
Right.
Um,
And it's like I've also noticed that I tend to lead and follow my passion and desire.
hmm,
Like really is like my kind of like guiding force in a lot of ways. So I feel very graced and gifted that this like bonfire was lit under me of just like wanting to dive in and like wanting to get more comfortable in this,
yeah,
wanting to tune in more deeply into this, and so I'm just like grateful for the grace
yeah.
of that push,
Right,
from higher
yeah.
self, from source.
From whatever, yeah, that's
Yeah,
amazing. That's something that a lot of people, I think, they don't get to experience that. So to use the word, it is a form of grace, wherever it comes from within us, from the universe, from entanglement. It's that innate desire that allows us to move forward because there's such an urge to say, I want to feel what it feels like to be comfortable in this skin, but also be connected to uh, the void. I think me and you spoke about that whenever we had first met. Just really being connected to source, but being in this physical body and embodying that connection, and like you said, diving into what that means.
right.
And have you been able to find some clarity through meditation in in that connection between source and your authentic self, and just simply being human?
Absolutely. I've used like the physical practice and like breathing pranayama
Hmm.
as gateway and avenue into mindfulness and meditation, essentially into myself, and um, through that I've learned to associate more strongly with that place of just awareness, that unchanging awareness that's witnessed my radically changing and always changing self,
Hmm.
and been able to observe all the different aspects of my life. And it's a practice that's ongoing.
Right.
But through this being able to observe without turning away, or sometimes, it's turning away and then coming back when I'm ready again.
Yeah.
But I've been able to like see, and through this practice of seeing and allowing, it allows for the inherent healing that the body's always wanting to do to happen.
Yeah.
So it's like allowing for the deep traumas that are embedded in the different areas of the body, different emotional things, different aspects of myself to come to the surface, and then for me to witness them and hold them so they can be released. And I've experienced tremendous relief with past experiences and finding more comfort myself. But really, ultimately, it's tapping back in through a practice of stillness
Yeah.
to tap back into myself, and that just helps me connect back into like a greater perspective.
Yeah.
And I see it as a doorway into the infinite, and from that bigger perspective, all the other things that seem like they're huge, like
Yeah.
all the different, like the drama of life, that can be overwhelming and it's still very real, but it puts in perspective, and I'm able to create a little bit of space from it.
Yeah.
And that space, there can be breath, and there can be some ease. So it's been a practice of learning how to heal. It's been a practice of learning how to ground myself, to open into my higher self, to allow for more of a natural flow state. So learning how to surrender has been probably the biggest challenge for me, being so like rigid from like engineering to sports, where it's a lot of doing,
Yeah.
and very tight and rigid.
I get
It's
it.
like learning how to release the tension in my body, learning how to surrender into that flow state,
Mm.
so I can be more of a conduit for my life purpose. So it's a doorway into all of that.
That's so magnificent. I think a word that could summarize all that would be identification. So not identifying with the dramas and the movements of life, but allowing yourself to feel the true identity of awareness and presence, and then look at the dramas, like you said. And I think, wow, like, and this is why you are such a gift to humanity, to the whole, unto yourself, but also unto all of us, is because finding that inner stillness is not easy. It's not easy to allow your body to relax, to allow the mind to relax, to truly uncover the observer within. Is a lifetime practice, and it's something that I believe a lot of people would like to experience. And I'm just so thrilled to even know, a being like you who's able to admit, I'm not perfect, but I know what that kind of feels like to be in that space of stillness. I've experienced a few moments like that where me and you have talked about just being in that complete observation, no matter how dramatic something is. But when you find that stillness within, there is no connection to the dramas. You're just watching it play out like on a movie screen. You're literally looking at it. And again, you find that inner peace. So, dude, thank you for showing up. Like, that's so cool. So cool.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I was going to say, like, what I think the biggest angles that I hold with doing this work is kind of like, this is where I can kind of say, like, now it's like I went from full-time engineer, so I did a 2-year internship at Apollo where I stepped away from engineering for 2 years, to now I'm integrating them both. But I like to think of myself kind of as a spiritual engineer in a sense, where it's like learning how to integrate this meditative awareness into everyday life.
Yeah.
Like with everything I was learning, it was always like, okay, this is great on the mat, but how do I integrate this into my life? Because that's when it really gets, that's when it gets real, and that's where it gets sucked into traffic or the drama of interaction or all life's challenges that gets thrown at you. But it's like learning how to, it's like, okay, it's like I know that the breath is always there, and the breath is always a doorway into myself, so it's a way to create space in my everyday life, so it's always working to integrate it into living.
Yeah.
And it's perfectly imperfect.
What do you say to people who tell you, I can't meditate and I can't calm my mind down, I can't breathe? So I think, again, taking this conversation, even taking what happens on the mat, taking what happens in meditation to life, to the world, is a task. It's huge. What do you do with people who say, Steven, it sounds great, but it's not for me?
Well, I would start with talking about, like, what does it actually mean to be meditating? And the act of meditation, and if you look at Patanjali's Ashtanga Yoga, which is the 8-limb path, which is like, so it starts with yamas and niyamas, which is like kind of like the moral code.
Yeah.
Then the asana, the physical body. Then pranayama, the breathing. Pratyahara, that withdrawal. And then it goes to dharana, which is focus. And then dhyana, which is meditation. So people think that meditation is just focusing on the act of focusing, but really the meditation is that flow state of absorption that happens after you're focused.
Yeah.
We're always meditating. I'd say if somebody's like, oh, I can't meditate, I would ask them, do you like to listen to music? Do you like to watch movies? Do you like to go for walks? When you're doing those things, you find there's a point where you lose a sense of yourself, you lose a sense of time, and everything else just becomes just the information. You're just awareness, you're interacting, you take on the emotions of what you're watching. That is meditation.
That's a meditation.
That is meditation. And the caveat is everything in this universe is energy. And all the energies have different qualities to them. So then my next question would be, it's like, okay, well, what kind of energy do you want to align yourself to?
That's cool.
So that could be a doorway into finding the practices, aligning yourself to an energy that might be more conducive for settling, for quieting, for stillness. We're a product of our environment. So the energies that we marinate in, we take on those qualities. We live in a very high-paced society, a go-go-go society where we're bombarded with stimulus.
Yeah.
Mind is a reflection of that energy. You're working all day in a really high-paced job, come home, watch a lot of TV, and then try to sit down and just think your mind's going to be quiet. It's
silly.
It's a lose-lose situation.
Yeah.
So it's like we can set ourselves up for success.
Yes.
We can set ourselves up in the environments that help to induce a quieter state. So, it's kind of an obvious, but getting out into nature,
Mm-hmm.
where it's inherently more still, getting to like the mountains, something really
Big
big
and
and
expansive.
majestic,
Yeah.
that something bigger than ourselves that we can kind of like
Whoa.
that energy, or going to
Yeah.
the ocean. But it could also be listening to music that might be more settling, more quieting, or watching a program that might be more settling, more quieting, to then doing guided meditations, which helps to keep the mind, like a guided meditation where somebody's kind of talking you through it.
Yeah.
Could be another step into the mind, because the mind, it's like we like to help set the mind up for success. So if the mind's really active and needs something to kind of like fixate on that's stimulating enough, a guided meditation is a good gateway.
Is a good idea.
Like a walking meditation,
Beautiful.
where there's movement involved, where it's a little more active.
Yeah.
So it's trying to like, again, meeting yourself where you're at, finding the appropriate ways to draw your attention in, to focus in, and then to get absorbed into whatever it is.
Yeah. So it's a state of being, is what I'm hearing you say. Is each and every activity that we choose, it becomes a state of being. Whether it's watching a movie, whether it's going for a hike, we become that. So that's how we're able to absorb. And like you said, it's not about, because what I hear people say a lot is, I can't meditate, and they think that means, not thinking and calming the mind. But what you're saying, what you're telling the world is, no, meditation is something you do all the time. It is that state of being that you're in whenever you are completely aware of the beingness of whatever's going on, whether it's a movie, whether it's dinner, whether it's a conversation. Whenever you're not in control, I guess to say, in your being, would be meditation. Is that a good summary of?
Right. Yeah. Meditation is something that we're all doing all the time. It's an inherent human gift.
Yeah.
I think that can get even more powerful is when you start to affiliate or associate your awareness with that observing consciousness that's above the mind, that's able to witness and see the mind, that's able to witness and see the emotions in the physical body.
Right.
When you can kind of associate with that as you're being absorbed into whatever you're being absorbed into, then you start to gain more intentionality with how you do it,
right?
And it just opens up more and more doors.
Yeah, and then you know what? Actually, it becomes more fun. And I've allowed myself to get to that point of, I'll be playing something on my iPad, and I will and it sounds funny, but listen, Amber, hear me out. It's really cool, because what we're talking about is not unconsciously doing things, but intentionally understanding, feeling, being one with whatever it is you're doing, from the observer, but also from the physical doer, in a sense. So allowing those two bodies of energy to meet and to set an intention to do something. So life becomes less serious. It becomes less rigid. And if it is rigid, we understand that it's not even really rigid, but that's just the thing that we're doing right now. So it's a lot of fun to be able to consciously be aware. And
well, I really think like fun and playfulness really is kind of like the golden nugget behind it all. It's like taking on that inherent childlike curiosity and playfulness goes a long ways. And I think for me, it really is, at this point in my life, coupled with like a loving awareness, like the two kind of like go hand in hand. It's like the foundation in which I tried, it's like my intention to move from those places.
Yeah.
Another thing I too is like with these practices, especially when you start to get into, it's like I'm going to intentionally try to meditate now. If it's not fun, if it feels like it's work, and it feels like it's really strenuous, the likelihood that it will be sustainable for you is slim to none.
Yeah. Wow.
So it's like, especially in the beginning, find the things that you can get absorbed into that are fun, like walking in the woods with your dog, walking in the woods, going skiing, hiking, like find meditations that are fun, and then it can start to be a doorway into stillness, which might seem like serious, but but it can, like, if you can still carry that curiosity,
Yeah.
that internal environment is wild. It's dynamic.
It is.
It's infinite.
It's everything but serious, I find. And
Right.
not to cut you off, but it's true. It's everything but serious. And there's two things you said. So meditation, you mean, doesn't have to be sitting under a tree or sitting by water and closing your eyes. It could be anything, and finding that doorway. Um, Seriousness and stillness are like really similar, I think. So if you want to, yeah, keep going with that. I just wanted to throw my 2 cents
Right.
in there.
Well, I can share an experience I had in a meditation retreat. Like, I've done 3 Vipassana 9-day silent meditation retreats, and I remember being there and like, okay, I'm going to be very still. I can't move. And the idea of just having to be very still and not allowing myself to move was like the doorway into tension and discomfort in my body.
Like
Where I saw everything tightening up because I was being very still. Because I had to force myself into stillness. But then there was like one key piece of advice that one of the teachers that was leading us at the time mentioned, and it was like, tend to the body. If you need to adjust the body, adjust the body. And even just affirming to myself that I could adjust the body, I could be in stillness without that tension. And what I've found that, I mean, there's again, like we were saying, there's so many different ways in which we can meditate. Dancing is one of my favorite forms of meditation.
Awesome.
One of my favorite forms to get absorbed into. But I also love stillness. You know, and it's gifting. You can see it as like a gift of stillness, and what can come from that. You know, so it's like allowing the physical body to be still, because again, it's all energy, and the mind is just constantly being influenced by what's going around. So if we can aim ourselves towards stillness by allowing the body to be still, again, adjusting if the body needs to be adjusted, which is different than the constant fidget, which happened at first too. But it's just all things to be aware of, right? But like when you start to really allow the body to settle, and then you allow it to, like waves, relax more and more and more, when the body starts to physically relax, then the energetic body can really become alive.
Yes.
Some things can get really interesting.
Yes.
And that can, again, be a doorway into dropping in. So like when the body's at still, like it allows the brain to start to slow itself down more and more and more. So you can kind of think about it like you're holding a glass of water and it's constantly undulating. It's like, I want that water to be still.
Right.
I'll still that water down with my mind. So I'm just going to really try to let it settle. You know, and then do the things to let it settle.
Right.
You know, because there's beauty in stillness, but there's as much beauty and potency in movement.
Yeah.
Or both.
But you bring the presence of stillness to the movement, right?
Right, because it's always that, because another way I like to look at it is, you can look at it like kind of like the masculine and feminine, but not even like gender-based masculine.
No, not at all, right.
So like, I know like these start to talk about this can be a little triggering for people, but it's like, take gender out of the equation. We both have, you can think about it as the right and left hemisphere of the brain.
Yeah.
Well, like, creative and logical. So there's pure awareness itself, consciousness, which is like the source of it all, which is pure consciousness. And then there's everything around it, which is this vibrating light particles, which create matter, which create thought, which create everything that we know and experience.
Yes.
So it's always this raw consciousness and energy. So that raw consciousness is oftentimes referred to as the masculine, and pure energy is the feminine. So it could be like Shiva consciousness, Shakta prana, or energy, right? So it's and then they could be split. You know, you can have just a lot of movement with no inherent awareness, and you can have all this awareness with no softness or fluidity or movement. Things get very dry, sterile, and they can get unpleasant and tight and rigid with like no movement. But once they start to merge, and join together and dance together, that's when we really blossom into our full potential as human beings.
Yeah.
We can bring the consciousness and the energy together and let them start to work hand in hand. That's when the magic really starts to happen.
Bridging humanity and consciousness. Voila. Yes. Very cool. No, that is a beautiful analogy. Just having the pure form consciousness and then the potent movement dancing. It's like I haven't met too many people who are able to articulate that understanding of meditation, but just life itself. I find it very. I know whenever I first started meditating, it was a mind game. It wasn't something I did as a being, but something I was doing with my mind because I was told, "Here's the 10 steps to meditate." And I think what we're doing here is we're showing people that it doesn't need to be that harsh. It doesn't need to be that serious. And what I think people get scared of is the unknown. So when you meditate and you drop into yourself, you're dropping into all that you are, the
Right.
beautiful, but also the things that people may not have uncovered about themselves start to present themselves. So what do you say to people who may have resistance to wanting to experience that? Because I know, for me, it was a little bit triggering to say, "Oh, this is, the shadow side of me that I didn't recognize, before, and now here it is, boom." So what do you
Right.
do, or how do you
I
teach
think
people?
I think what you're touching upon is kind of it's very real, and I think the majority of the people, especially in this society, are dealing with this, where the idea of turning in and actually looking at themselves is terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, including myself, a lot of times will keep ourselves constantly busy, constantly interacting with other people in relationships, workaholics,
Yeah.
have like travelaholics, like none of it's good, bad, right, or wrong,
Right.
but it's all a form of avoiding turning our attention inward.
Yeah.
And what I found is, first of all, this path of mindfulness, this path of turning that gaze inward, it takes strength, it takes courage to do this, and it can be a very beautiful thing. And one of the things that I've really noticed and touched upon, like you said, we're afraid of the unknown. And I've kind of given this analogy in the past where it's just like, I have this aspect of myself that's terrifying, and what I'm looking at is the shadow on the wall, and the shadow is this big, scary monster that looks terrifying.
Yeah.
So the idea of actually turning around to look at it, forget about it, right?
Like, no way.
I don't want that. Oftentimes what happens, if we can actually, with breath, with softness, tenderness, soft strength, turn and look, and sometimes it's like you kind of do one of these and you're kind of barely looking, and then you can slowly maybe look a little bit more. What I found oftentimes, more often than not, that shadow on the wall that was like a big, terrifying monster was really just a teddy bear.
I love it.
It was really, and with that being said, there's also very real trauma and that a lot of people are faced with. And it can be a slow process. It can be one of getting support from peers to help support you in this path. Acknowledging, and part of it is the self-awareness, is knowing when it's too much.
Yeah, being honest with yourself.
It's too much. It's okay to shift your attention to do something else. That is okay. It can be like kind of chipping away or letting it melt a little bit at a time.
And even just that awareness is huge to like start that process, right? So even if we can't like dive in right away and like look at the full thing that's casting the shadow, just having that want to even do that, wouldn't you say that's a good start to begin that process, right?
And one of the sayings is like, all it takes is a mustard seed of awareness to make a change. So what we're doing is we're bringing the light of consciousness. In itself is non-judgmental, inherently the vibration of the universe, which is love, to the shadow. And all it takes is a seed can start to make a change,
Yeah.
to shed light on what was not yet seen. And that is what this practice really is, and we're still fully human, right? We are these energetic beings. We have a concoction of chemicals always changing inside of us. Testosterone, estrogen, like all of it, and it's going to affect the way we perceive the universe, the world, situations intermingle with all of that. So it's a continuous wave of experience. But the thing that's not changing beneath all those waves is that observer.
Yeah, the constant.
And that's why, when we can learn through these practices to associate ourselves more and more with that observer. And this is not to disassociate from being human. This isn't like, I'm going to be in my head in this little box where nothing can hurt me. It's still being radically human.
I love that. I love that you said that.
Radically human, because that could be another pathway that people go down where they close themselves off. And the practices of meditation and mindfulness are due to strengthening, disassociating from the human condition. But I think we're gifted with this human condition. It is the ultimate course in miracles, in what it can be to have this wild spectrum of emotions and experience, and to be able to find love through all of that and connect back to where we came from.
Yeah, that's so cool, brother. Something that came up. So, what are the benefits of connecting back to your center, connecting back to your heart? So, through meditation, through this observing mind, that I know for me personally is the utmost form of conscious awareness. That's when you can view reality from the observer, it's speechless, literally. So what's the benefits? Maybe on a simpler term, what's the benefits of meditation for people?
Well, when we can start to learn to affiliate ourselves with the observer, which is not the thinking mind,
right? Yep.
We can create space between the core of who we are and our thinking mind. The mind is a beautiful, beautiful thing. It's the supercomputer that we have to interact in the world, and it's tremendously powerful.
And it's needed too.
And needed, and it has the ability to time travel, go to the past, the future, present, But what happens is we associate ourselves with the mind, so then we become victim of its wild, storm-like nature, and then we're in that. Then all the ups and downs, and then the emotions that come into it, we take on that as the identity of who we are. So then things can get stickier, and they can have a bigger impact on our emotional well-being. All that's beautiful, and it's not to try to get away from all that, but when we can start to affiliate with the awareness behind all that, we can start to create a little bit of space, and then we're not quite as stuck to it, where it's like we can watch it being moved and churning and doing its wild dance, but we're not being thrown around by it quite as much.
Right. Yeah.
So it's learning. So through this awareness, we can gain more emotional intelligence.
Yes. So
then, like, the emotions are the fuel in which we create. The mind, the thinking process is what we aim towards creating, and the emotions are the fuel that create it. So when we can start to become more emotionally intelligent and become more consciously intelligent through affiliating ourselves with this awareness, then we can start to really unlock our potential as human beings. And then it's also a doorway into our higher self, right? Into our spirit, our soul. Like when we start to slow down, we start to open up that, and so it can help to boost our natural intuition.
Yeah.
So then like things can be in more of a flow state where we don't have to necessarily try, we can just be doing and showing up to it. And then life can inherently become more playful through that as well. It can be, through these practices of meditation, it's the ultimate healing for trauma.
Yes.
I mean, trauma is energy in the body that we weren't able to witness, so our mind short-circuited and it stored that energy in our body. And sometimes it comes up, like if we're getting massage or yoga, and all of a sudden we start crying, we have no idea why, or get a flood of old memories. It's because it's physically and stored in our body, and we release it for the mind. So the body is always trying to heal itself. Homeostasis, it's like that act of balance that nature is always trying to achieve. Our body is always trying to heal itself. So it tries to heal itself by bringing up these past traumas or unintegrated emotions. And when we don't look at it, when we turn away or avoid it, it goes back in. It's okay. It's there's no timetable. There's no appropriate time for this stuff to heal. But it's there to be healed when we want it to be healed. So when we allow ourselves to just be in that observer, that's when the body and our subconscious starts to reveal to us the parts that can be healed and released.
Yeah.
And through learning how to hold that, how to breathe with it, feel it fully, it needs to be felt, and allow it. Find places of surrender to it and acceptance. It doesn't mean if there's a trauma, if you're assaulted, that you have to affirm their action, but it's finding forgiveness, if anything, just for yourself, so you can release that energy, because all this trauma that's being stored in our body, it takes psychological energy to keep that at bay. So we're reducing our functionality and our capability through trying to suppress all these things that we don't want to see.
Right.
But once we allow ourselves to see it, to hold it, maybe first be able to look at it and maybe set it by us and it's like, okay, you're all right. Then maybe start to form friendship with it and be like, oh, actually, I love you because now I can see that I am who I am because of you.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then that's how we start to heal, and then we open up our capacity for more.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. This is gonna, help so many people, and not only this video, but the classes that you're going to be giving with the Heart Center. I cannot wait to see you, with whoever shows up. I wanted to speak a little bit more on, being present with those feelings and with those emotions. And what I find interesting is when trauma happens, whenever those things do come up, again, we go back into the mind. The mind identifies with that. So then the body identifies with that. Then the ego identifies with that. And so you have these layers, right, of identification that aren't who you are. That whole time, the observer, the presence, pure consciousness that you stem from is, again, sitting back, watching it all play out on the screen. So in short, wouldn't you say that meditation, mindfulness, and this practice could not be a shortcut, but be a direct path to healing, right? So that we can observe those things from a less traumatic way. Does that make sense?
Yes. I mean, there's so many different avenues to healing.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I think it always comes down to, we can get support from others and light workers that can clear us out. But at the end of the day, it's radically our own path.
Yeah.
And it really isn't so much that we have to do our healing, but it's more of a surrender into the grace of the divine to allow the healing to take place.
Right.
And the doorway into that is to surrender through just observing, even with, feeling into, learning how to hold on the edges of sensation, and there's different techniques to do it too, and there's a lot of teachers that really get in that this is more their specialty, and there's a lot of really good information out there on this, but ultimately through the act of compassionate, non-judgmental awareness, curious, kind of like a scientist, that really is a potent doorway and a key ingredient to this self-healing.
Yeah, so cool. I wanted to bring this up. This is kind of changing subjects because that topic was mind-blowing. But I really want to talk about purple. I really want to dive into purple because I know when I met you, if that's something you're comfortable with, when I met you, that me and you both we spoke about colors and our journey. And by the way, for those of you who don't know, I met Steven going for a walk in the woods and just having about 2.5 hour long conversation about everything from aliens to this to yoga to food to women to color. So that's how we met, and I'm really grateful for that.
Recognize the fellow heart warrior.
Yeah, beautiful. Yes,
that drew me in.
Thank you, brother. Having said that, purple. Tell us about purple. What's your connection? Why the color purple for you?
It's interesting. As I've gone down this path and really have gotten in touch more with my masculine and my feminine side, and learning how to be more human and more expressive. I went from wearing a lot of just kind of like blue and kind of like a lot of silver and kind of very simple, not a lot of color, to getting more interested in color, vibrancy, and expression. Wearing like jewelry and things, just like to express myself, things that I get drawn to, and feeling okay with that. And purple, and it resonates with me, it's got it's like a high conscious kind of color,
It is. I love it. What's your sign? You're not a Pisces, right?
Taurus. I'm actually
Oh, so we're like buddies.
double Taurus Aries. Yeah,
Oh, cool.
Sun and Taurus and Aries rise. Yeah.
Nice. I listened to an astrologer a few days ago, and she said Pisces during this time are really drawn to the color purple, and
Right.
I've been since we met again drawn to the color purple, and being my son in Pisces, I was like, oh, that makes sense, and so I think it's just cool. Little side note, I'm really rocking the purple. I think there's a lot of potent energy in colors. Again, it's a wave of information, and at different phases on this journey, you're going to be drawn to different things that resonate with you. Um, at one point in time, I was really, really involved in wanting to understand telekinesis and really telepathy. So really working with the mind in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that took me down a huge rabbit hole of understanding energy and how everything's connected. And if I want to move something with my mind, I have to understand the energy of it. So, but that faded, and then you get interested in like you said, the colors. I'm sure that'll fade. So it's a constant observing of what is fresh for you, what makes you feel alive, and it's purple is it right now for me and
Right.
for you. Yeah.
I think you just touched upon it. It's really like what makes you feel alive,
Mm.
and think like there's a million different techniques for meditation, but inherently, I think the most potent technique that I've found was to just follow your natural curiosity
Mm. Cool.
and allow yourself to get absorbed in your natural curiosity. And it's like we're passionate beings. We are very emotional beings. We're driven by passion. And that's okay. It's like none of it's good, bad, right, or wrong. Like some passions will have, and it's all cause and effect. So some passions will have different effects, and then at the end of the day, you get to choose if that's an effect that you
That you want
want
to
or not.
continue. Yeah.
And it's going to be an acceptable effect for
Yeah.
a while until it's not.
Until it's not, right.
And then you let these things play out, right?
Yeah. And that's like that's important too. So allowing things they don't always have to be rainbow and sunshines. There's a huge, I think, mindset around what it means to be an evolved human being. And I think a lot of people have this perception of like, love and light and like it being like, but really, like you said, sometimes you will do something that you get an adverse reaction to. And that still doesn't make it wrong. It makes it what happened. And from there, the thing that makes it right or wrong is your conscious observation on it, right? So you're how attached, and which way do you get attached to that event? So again, taking the seriousness and the right or wrong out of life, I think is a good practice. Being able to see things neutrally, um, and judging it by how is it affecting you, but also how is it affecting the environment and the universe around you. I think those are two very good parameters to live by. Is what's it doing to you and your well-being, but is this truly um, in the best benefit of mankind and you know the earth?
Right.
So
The way I like to hold it up. But first, I like to take off or take out of my vocabulary good, bad, right, and wrong.
yeah, I agree.
That's all cause and effect.
Yeah.
And then I hold it up to, is this activity or thing helping to raise me towards infinity? Which I see that we live in an infinite universe, in my opinion, is the definition of love. It can, like, the universe is infinite, can hold everything. It has, it can contain everything within itself. Love can hold anger, fear, all the emotions.
Wow,
it's
yeah.
the ultimate cocoon,
Right.
the ultimate hug. Where, like, is it building me up, helping me expand, helping me feel alive, helping me feel more authentic? Or is it more fear-based, which is limiting,
Yes.
singular? It's like fear, hate, those cannot hold other things. They're singular. They create separation, right?
That's a
They
good key that you just said.
they get constricted.
Yeah.
So it's like, which way am I being pulled or pushed? And then, like, like fear-based activities will kind of push you in a direction.
Mm.
Like, I'm probably or you'll be doing reactions out of that. Where love-based things draw you in like a magnet or a warm embrace.
Yeah.
So it's like kind of getting to the qualities of things, and it's like, how is this activity, what fate, or where is this taking me?
Right.
And it's like, is this what I want right now?
Yeah. Yeah, and it all comes down to just being honest with yourself, being honest with your heart, really tuning into that vibration of your heart. There's activities that I would have done 5 years ago that I wouldn't do now. They weren't bad activities, but the state of being that I am now isn't drawn to those things. But at the same time, those things 5 years ago that I would still love to do today, right? And I would go back and do them because they're simply fun, and it was enjoyable. So it's really cool to play with the energy in that way, to really take out those words that draw the mind into that limited mindset. And it's not the words that are inherently bad, it's what the words convey to the spirit that make them not as attractive, I would say. So,
Right. And then words will affect us all differently. Where we have our own association with those words, right?
yeah, true. Yeah,
So
that's
it's
awesome.
like the same word is going to have a different effect on different people.
Right.
So it's like finding the words that support you and help elevate you.
Yeah.
And like that's like language. Like that's the thing that, like, if we have a choice of what language we use. It's like, and we're just saying, it's like, because I'm a spiritual being, I'm moving towards my spiritual path. It doesn't mean I'm not going to have reactions to things.
Right.
Exactly. The difference between reacting and then staying in it, and then losing that side of the awareness, and then lashing out, versus having a reaction, expressing the emotion, but then also, like, at the same time being conscious about its effect.
Right.
But letting it be suppressed. But then from there also, like, allowing it to feel it. So then it just passes through. Emotions aren't meant to be stored.
Right. Yeah.
It's not meant to be held on to. They're meant to be felt and released.
I'm so glad you said that.
Like when we, like, deny feeling angry or deny feeling shame or whatever, then we're storing it in our body, and then we're just saving it for later.
Right.
So it's just like,
that's not something you want to store up. Yeah, that's not something you want to store up. I think you said it perfectly. Is like giving room for it to be, consciously knowing this is what's happening. You're going to react how you react. But I also, because I can hear people say, "Oh, great, so I can just be rude and angry all the time." Like, no, that's not ideal. But what we're saying is, should a situation arise where you might feel jealous or angry or whatever it is, and that those emotions come up, be aware of it, feel them, see if you can feel how it feels to feel those emotions, let them out, but then allow yourself to settle back into your truth, to your center. And I think what happens is people, like you said, they kind of go with the emotion, they kind of get dragged into it and pulled by that fear, right? Where the conscious observer would say, okay, I see this emotion, here it comes, oh, there it goes, and okay. All right, so...
And there's also ways like with this awareness comes more emotional intelligence, and then there's ways we can consciously work with it. Like the biggest triggers are probably going to happen with interactions with people.
Yes.
Probably a spouse or a loved one.
Oh yeah.
Triggering, right? Yeah. So there's a difference, I think, between, okay, you're triggering me, so I'm just going to allow myself to have my reaction, and I'm going to be on attack mode and tell you everything that you're doing wrong. That's very different from saying, okay, I am feeling,
I'm
when you
feeling
do
angry.
these things, like I just recorded, just like really clear observation. When you do these things, I feel this.
Mm.
So that's taking ownership. It's using an I statement to name how I'm feeling. And then you can even name, it's like, I imagine that you're doing all these things. So
Mm.
you can even name where your imagination's taking you, which is very different from just pointing the finger and going on the attack.
Right. Yeah.
But it's both being with the emotion.
Yeah.
It's allowing the emotions to play out, but you can do them very differently.
Right. Exactly. And this also takes a level of, I would say, intellectual maturity, even. And because what happens when, because emotions are very, this is funny because we're actually tapping into my pillar a little bit, which is cool, but I just wanted
They
to say
all
that.
overlap.
Yeah. So it's cool though, because it's just so important, right? So the meditation, sacred geometry, yoga, everything is interchangeable. At the Heart Center, we like to say the nine is one and the one is nine. So, anyways, when those emotions come up, the body has a physical response. So to be able to actually feel that energy rise within you, just like when you get happy or you're feeling excited, there's a physical response. You feel lighter. You feel like this is great. Um, it's a natural high in a sense. The same is to be said of other emotions, right? So whether it's jealousy, whether it's anger, whether it's being scared, whatever, the body is going to send you signs and signals. So I think it's key to listen to the body when if you're in a relationship and someone's triggering you. Okay, my heart beats faster. Um, my head gets a little bit hot. My hands start to shake. Something is going to say this emotion is coming. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. And if you can kind of sit in that, and then, like you said, express, I'm feeling like this. This is what's happening. It is so much better than, again, just blindly attacking because that
Right.
emotion has taken you over. So
Right.
that is a huge, huge nugget.
And emotions are powerful, powerful times tidal waves of energy.
Hmm.
And it's very easy to be unemotional and just be cut and just be very in the mind and kind of guide logic. But then once the emotions come into play, it throws logic out the window.
Hmm.
And at times, right? And it can be really challenging. So that's why it's just like, now it's like, oh, I meditated once and I'm going to be perfect at guiding emotions, right? It's a lifelong exploration and
Yeah.
journey, right?
So true.
And part of the practice is we make mistakes, and that's how we learn,
Yeah.
And it's like forgiveness for self first and then others, right?
Yeah. It's so
So
cool.
it's like allowing it for it to be a messy, sloppy learning process.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it.
Yeah. Speaking of, I want to correct myself. So I said my pillar. I want to be sure that I'm very conscious of what I say. So again, so we all embody these pillars. I don't own the pillar of emotion. I'm simply here to help exchange the energy through it. So I just wanted to Om Sat Tat to say that.
We are a doorway into the pillar.
Yes.
One of them.
Yes, very cool. I just want to double check the time, Stephen, because I want to again stick to our hour. It's actually almost 8:30 on the dot. Is there anything that's in your heart that you would like to say to the world, to humanity, as far as the pillar of meditation, bringing this energy to the world and really embodying it during this time of your life?
Yeah, things are speeding up
Hmm.
in our world, in our universe. It's, I think, very exciting times. And right now, I think it's presenting itself as very challenging times, which is, I think, also the potency of churning to help awaken. But I think we're on the cusp of a big global ascension. And I think there couldn't be a better time to really start to shift our awareness as a culture into the heart through meditation, and like really start to embody and acknowledge our co-creative capacity. We ultimately are creating the very fabrics of this reality, and we have the power to change it the way that we want to when we all come together and acknowledge that that is an inherent power.
Yes, sir.
These practices are the doorway into that and can help us start to refine that power. And then we can really clean things up and create the fun environment that we want.
Yeah, create the new, baby. I love that. I want to just wave our pine cones.
Oh
Right.
yeah.
So we got our little pine cones here.
Pineal gland consciousness.
Yes, exactly. So again, you'll be seeing these in all of our heart center videos. Just again, just a gentle reminder of uh, our mission, really. And our mission is, just as Stephen stated, to really channel in the new and to co-create together as the heart center, but also as humanity, bring in this new vibration and say, hey, look, we are consciously choosing to live this way, to express as pure, vibrant beings who are in contact with Source, who are creating from Source, and who are in tune with our emotions, our heart, and express authentically from that. So these pine cones are very gentle reminders, but of a very big event that's taking place. A few notes for me. So again, this is Stephen, the embodying the pillar of meditation, and I'm Chris, and this is the Heart Center. We actually have the Heart Opener series coming out in January 8th. Yes, so we'll have 10 classes with 9 teachers, and all being taught over a 10-week period. You can register at www.theheartcenter.space. You can check us out on Facebook and Instagram at 9 The Heart Center. And really, feel free just to be human. Reach out to either of the pillars, any of the teachers that you see from the Heart Center. We are all here to serve humanity, and it is literally within my grandest pleasure to do this. I am so honored to be, in this position to give back to the world and collaborate with people like Stephen and the other pillars. So, Stephen, thank you so much for showing up. Yeah. So we're end with the short heart opener. Yeah, with the flute. Do you want to say something about the flute, or you just want to dive in? Just short, like.
Sure. Yeah. So I mentioned I was at Kripalu for an internship, and when I was there, I got influence from a couple people. One meditation teacher used it as a tool for meditation, for guided meditations, and another teacher that would play it at the end of class, yoga class, shavasana. So I picked it up and started playing, and I use it in all my yoga classes. I use it to guide meditations, and for me, it's been a powerful practice of meditation, of learning how to surrender into flow state. There's times where it literally I'm just watching myself being played. Yeah. And I've moved myself to tears because I know it's not me playing. I'm just acting as a channel.
Yeah.
But it's also a powerful practice of learning how to be in the feminine flow state, but then also in the conscious influencing state, consciously trying to do something, and then that influences, and then it goes back and forth. But when they're dancing together,
it's so cool, so beautiful.
It just has a very different quality and feel to me. So it's been a powerful meditation practice for me as well, and I love to share.
Thank you. Wonderful. Fantastic.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you. So we will speak very soon, my friend. Everyone, again, www.theheartcenter.space. This has been Stephen and Chris from the Heart Center. Peace and purity to you all. I'll speak with you soon, Stephen.
Yeah.
Thanks, brother.
All right.